this edition of Who Gets the China podcast, where we are learning really important skills to help support our parents as they age and live longer, and to support them in living better and living safely and living the life that they really want. And so we're talking to a range of guests that have expertise in these areas that we don't, so we can learn and be better prepared. And today I'm super excited to have my guest, Kami Pomerantz, with us. Kami is an attorney. She's been working in estate planning for 27 years. She's a partner at Holland and Hart LLP, which is a large law firm here in Denver, Colorado. And she's here to share some stories and her expertise with us today. So Kami, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
It's going to be fun.
And it's a great name. Who Gets the China? I like it.
It kind of it originated with this idea of navigating all the stuff that you have to deal with as your parents age and perhaps downsize or move on. And how do you navigate that with your family and your siblings? Also, how do I help my mom declutter? Because she really loves her things. And so it started with that, but then quickly has kind of expanded into all these other areas that are related and maybe even more important, right? Than who gets the china, who gets your estate. So I'm happy to be talking about that with you today. And I think one of the things that we've talked about, which I'm excited to dig into today, is how those needs shift over time. Sometimes we have these conversations at one point, but then our parents age, things happen, decline might set in. Family dynamics might shift. There might be divorces, marriages, all this kind of stuff. So thinking from a long-term planning perspective. And I do want to just reiterate, Kami is here as our guest today. She's not offering us personalized legal advice. She's educating us on some of the fundamentals. And since we're both here in Colorado, some of them might be specific to Colorado. So as always, check with your own estate planning attorney, financial advisor, the laws in your state to make sure that whatever you're doing is relevant for your family. Do you want to chime in, or is that
perfect? And just the only other thing is, no, we are not creating any attorney-client relationship with anyone out there.
Yes, this is for educational purposes only. So
yes, for sure.
And hopefully a little bit of entertainment too. So
I hope so.
And also, just to, the names and story, anything that we talk about, any stories, they're not specific to anyone in particular, right? We'll change names and things as needed, but they're real examples, but they're not, we're not personalizing them. One of the things that we wanted to talk a little bit about, because it does lead into estate planning in terms of how do you protect yourself and your loved ones. And so one of the first things that we started talking about was fraud. Right? We know that there's a lot of fraud being perpetrated on seniors and all of us these days. And for instance, my mom was a victim of your computer has a scam. You need to download this software immediately. It's urgent. And then we'll fix it for you. And then it's going to ultimately end up in, well, you need to pay me this amount of money. And so my mom was involved in this on the computer, and even my dad could overhear in the next room, and he was kind of trying to say, what's going on? What are you doing? But she got so wrapped up in the moment of these scammers that she did let them download something to her computer. And it wasn't terribly tragic, but we did have to go to the bank. We did have to change bank account numbers. We had to close credit cards. So it was not a loss, but a gigantic nuisance. And we're going to talk today about some things that you can do to help, not necessarily prevent. But I wanted to give you a chance to sort of talk about some of the things that you've seen. Then we can lead into how do we protect our family.
Yeah, I mean, we're all have, at least at my firm, we're constantly being told, do not download things, do not respond to emails that you don't know. I get spam calls, but as we age, it can be either because people are less technologically savvy, or they do not want to appear that they don't know what they're doing, that they are more willing to agree to things. So one instance I heard about was someone was contacted, and it was an elaborate scam that convinced this person that she was a CIA operative and had to wire money because it couldn't be, it had to be covert, and that she couldn't tell anyone because it was this covert operation. And of course, the family got wind of uh, the money coming out of the account, and they tried to convince this person that this wasn't true. But she just thought, well, I can, that of course they can show you it's true because it's a covert operation.
Right,
They
right.
had the FBI go to her house and say it is not true. And she still believed it. So that it is amazing how people can not want to be shaken of their beliefs. And then once they're in it, they don't want to look stupid,
Right.
to themselves or to others. So they continue to confirm that it's true. The another one was someone actually went to someone's house and said that they had malware on their computer and they were sent by Comcast or another internet provider, and they're going to fix it, but they have to be paid in cash. Um, and so and that they were coming the next day, and this person went to the bank, got the money out, and tried to was going to pay them, but fortunately the family got wind of it before that happened. But people are very, very vulnerable. And another form of fraud that isn't is a lot more subtle is that as people age, they can have a lot of caregivers and
Hmm.
helpers around them, and those people, for the most part, most of them are very, very, very honest, but and wonderful, but they can be have a sob story. My daughter needs X, or my friend needs Y, and and they have these trusted relationships, and people want to help, and it can get a little fuzzy. Are they being helpful, or are they being taken advantage of?
It is unnerving. I mean, my parents live in California, so they're a flight away. I mean, even when I go there now, sometimes it's like, I mean, around their computer, passwords are on yellow stickies. I mean, I know that's not the right thing to do, but it's the reality of life, right? And so, they don't have caregivers per se, but they're people that come in to do things. And I try to say to them, maybe put the big notebook that says passwords away, right? Don't have that out on your desk when so and so comes. I'm sure that their motives are good, but you've got to protect yourself. So let's dig into this a little bit, because how can we protect our parents? Like, what are some actual maybe legal steps or financial planning steps that we could or should take, even when our parents might currently be cognitively functioning well and we're not concerned about things like dementia or Alzheimer's? But what are some of the things that we could or should start to talk about or put in place?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key to all of this is to start early while everybody is in in a good place, having that good communication, and building that trust, and making money and accounts and cognitive decline not taboo subjects, but something that we're all thinking about and planning for, bringing everybody into the fold and being open about that communication is, I think, the important. I mean, there's definitely tools out there. Have Another thing is, do people have financial advisors, accountants, and attorneys that they speak to? Usually, the financial advisors are on the front lines because they will see the money moving around in the accounts, and hopefully your parent has said, if you see something strange, tell my daughter, that they're allowed to tell your daughter.
So
I
how do
think,
we set that up? So take me through that, because I mean, I don't know that I can just call my parents' financial planner and say, hey, can you tell me if something weird is going on? What would I need to do to start that process?
You have to have your parent call them uh, with you or separately and say, I just want to put this on my account that if there is something odd, I authorize you to call my child. And I think I, I mean, I'm sure every bank and brokerage house is different, um, but they all want to prevent fraud because they don't want to be on the hook
Right.
for transferring money inappropriately. And so, they have mechanisms to allow for that, but they also have privacy concerns, so they want to make sure that they're authorized.
So one step we can take is either ask our parents to talk to their financial advisor or reach out to them together to either like sign some kind of just like a form that would allow healthcare information to be shared. Some kind of
Exactly.
let you're empowered to talk to my daughter Kirsten if you think that something inappropriate is happening. Or what power does that give me? I guess I'm wondering, is it like, can I call them and say, hey, it looks like my parent just wrote a really large donation check that I'm surprised to see? Or um, is it a two-way communication if I sign something like that? Or is it simply like a one-way
Yeah.
alert?
Yeah, I think you can talk to them, but they won't have any, in that case, where it's just a sort of an information sharing relationship, uh, that they wouldn't have any ability to stop that. That you're knowing that happened, your recourse is to talk to your parents at that point, because this first step is just an information sort of sharing. You
Okay.
have visibility to their accounts. It doesn't necessarily give you power over their accounts. And that we can get to that next step
Okay, so
later.
yeah, let's do that. I mean, let's go down this road. So, phase
Okay.
one, I have a connection with my parents' financial advisor that they know I'm a trusted party. We have some kind of communication. And then, okay, if I need more than that, if I suspect that perhaps maybe my parent is being taken advantage of, or maybe I have a story of a friend who her parent, you know, once a month gave $50 to the church. And then all of a sudden, this friend noticed there were a couple of extra zeros on a check. And it was, I think, a $5,000 donation. And my friend knew that this probably was an error, right? The parent might have gotten confused while writing the check. But okay, so then what? What's the next step that lets me get in the middle of that transaction and say, hey, this isn't right?
Right. So then the next step is to actually for your parents to give you power of attorney over the account. And there are two ways to do that. One is each bank or brokerage house has their own power of attorney form that your parent can sign to authorize on that particular account you to have power over it along with them, so that they're not giving up their power over the account. They're just adding you to also be able to take action with respect to the account. Now, in your example with the $5,000 check to the church, that's probably gone
Yeah.
unless the church gave it back, which they might because they're
Right.
a church.
Hopefully they would. Hopefully they
Yeah,
would do the right
hopefully they
thing.
would, if their nice parishioner went to them and said, look, I got confused and I put the decimal point in the wrong place. That's I would expect a charity to give it back, which brings us to the point that it is hard to undo things once the money is gone. It's not impossible. There's legal actions, lawsuits, there's police. If somebody is stealing from your parent, immediately call the police, and they will investigate. But once the money is gone, it is difficult to get it back.
And it's
So
interesting that you say to call the police because I
yeah.
guess in my mind, I would have thought they have bigger fish to fry and that they might, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to call them for like a $50 situation, but I guess I might not have thought to call them. So,
Oh yeah, no, they are very concerned with elder fraud, and they will definitely go and investigate. In fact, this is just an aside, but I do estate planning for wealthy people, which often involves larger gifts to family members, and I arranged for this person to make a gift, and it was a large gift, and it was done actually under a power of attorney because the person was incapacitated, but that was allowed, and it was absolutely the right thing to do for estate planning purposes. But the bank did alert the police, and the police called me as the attorney to say, hey, was this, a real thing, or is this someone stealing from this
wow,
poor man? And I said, no, no, this is a real thing, and he's fine, and he has plenty of funds. So
that's
yeah,
great actually to know that they are on alert, right? So there are times where people do reach out when things look possibly amiss.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in my experience, they take it very seriously.
So we have
Yes.
the power of attorney by account.
By account. Then there's also what we call a general durable power of attorney, which is would be general, meaning for all accounts and all other functions that someone might do as a individual. That could be signing tax returns, calling the Social Security Administration, paying bills, all the things that we do on a daily basis, that we don't really think about. And a general durable power of attorney basically gives someone the power to act as if in your place is exactly as you would have the ability to act. On financial matters. Those are broader. Usually, you would have to go to attorney to prepare one, although there is a statutory form here in Colorado. There's probably statutory forms in other states that provide them. And a person, when they're creating this general durable power of attorney, can include powers, or say that an agent can do some things and not other things.
So it can be very broad or very
It can be,
specific. Like they could
yeah.
say, my child or my person can pay bills on my behalf, but I don't want them to, I don't know, sell my house or whatever the specific thing might be.
The most common example in the estate planning world would be whether somebody can make gifts on someone's behalf or not. That's, gift money to other people. A lot of people will exclude that power. Selling a house might be another power to exclude. The idea of the power of attorney, though, is to be flexible over time. And so, what seems reasonable to exclude today, like never sell my house, in 10 years, when if someone has Alzheimer's or severe dementia and has to go to a nursing home, maybe you need to sell the house in order to pay for that.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about this then, because I think we talked about this a little bit the other day. So maybe I have a durable power of attorney in place, and my parents are currently cognitively functioning well, but something could happen. Somebody could start to show signs of cognitive decline, or somebody could fall and have to go into rehab care for 6 weeks or something. Do I have the document that I need, or do I need something different to let me step in?
So It depends. So there are two kinds of powers of attorney. One is called a springing power of attorney, and one is immediately effective. So springing means that the power of attorney becomes effective upon a specific um, event or condition. Usually it is deemed to be incapacity. And under the Colorado statute, it defines incapacity, and I'm just going to read it to you. Incapacity means inability of an individual to manage property or business affairs because the individual has an impairment in the ability to receive and evaluate information or make or communicate decisions, even with the use of technological assistance. So that is the definition of incapacity under the Colorado Power of Attorney Act. So if you make the power of attorney springing, meaning it's only effective when someone's incapacitated, you need to have someone, usually a doctor, sometimes two doctors, determine that the person is unable to manage their property or business affairs because of this kind of impairment of ability to receive and evaluate information. And as you might imagine, that is not easy for a doctor to say. And it's also not easy because people lose their abilities slowly, usually a little bit over time. And so it may be easy to say someone is incapacitated if they're in a coma, right?
Mhm.
But if they lost their keys, are they
Right,
incapacitated?
right. And I mean, like, there's this whole MoCA scale, right, about cognitive decline. So again, like as you say, that shifts over time. So one year I can't remember what the scoring is. I might be a 20. The next year I might be an 18. The next year I might be a 16. And so, like you said, it's kind of gradual. And the only people that would really be able to probably see it are the loved ones that are around this person and notice these things are happening. Like a primary care physician, people can perform really well for a half an hour in a doctor's appointment, right? They can
Oh, yeah.
accommodate and whatever front very well. But like I might know as the child, ooh, this person is doing things that are tricky. So that's the problem with a springing power of attorney because I would have to go to the doctor and say, here's what's happening. And by that point, perhaps my family member might be saying, no, I'm fine. Like they might disagree, right?
Oh, definitely. And they often they'll put on a good performance there at the doctor. And yeah, and also they could maybe be good at some things and not good at other things, as you said. So it's very difficult, not impossible. I mean, clearly doctors will say if they really feel someone is incapacitated, and there does come a point in most people's lives where they cannot handle things. But as we age, I think it is important for parents to consider whether they want to make their powers of attorney this springing, where there has to be this determination, or whether they want to make it immediately effective so that your trusted spouse or child can act on your behalf, to help you, even if you're still able to help yourself. So do some things and not others. What check on, trade the stocks, but not, I don't know, pay the bill, or
Right.
vice versa.
Or
Yeah.
even, so here's a question. So my parents have a trust. I think probably lots
Mhm.
of people do. And if you have two parents that are part of that trust, and they might have different abilities to do things. Like, does this power of attorney pertain to one person or does it pertain to the trust?
So trusts are different because they're managed by trustees. Powers of attorney do not control trustees.
Okay.
That's because that is a different, they're acting as fiduciaries, they're not acting as their person in that case.
Okay.
Now, so with a revocable trust, if someone is incapacitated, they should be removed as trustee or resign. And often we'll encourage people to resign as trustee of a revocable trust if they're having difficulty, because that will mean they won't have power to make distributions or make trades. Or with respect to if your parents are the trustees, they could name you as a co-trustee with them. And so that is sort of almost the same as giving you power of attorney, because you are acting as their fiduciary along with them and would have access to all the trust accounts and would know whether distributions are being made and could execute actions on their behalf with their consent. If they are trustees as well, you need to, it depends how the trust document is written, but sometimes if there's 3 trustees, the document will say majority
Mm.
rule, or sometimes it will require unanimous. The default under the law here in Colorado is unanimous. That so no matter how many trustees you have, unless the document says otherwise, it would require unanimous consent. Even if one trustee could ultimately execute the trade or pay the bill or sign the check, they're supposed to discuss and consent to it together. But most documents, when written, would say majority. So
Okay.
with you and your parents, if it were all 3 of you, it would be so you and your mom could act without your dad, or you and your dad could act without your mom. But if one of them were really having trouble, we would try to ask them to resign, which is difficult.
I don't want to have that conversation. That sounds like at least not
I
yet.
know.
It can be very difficult to have these conversations. In many cases, you are shifting into a new dynamic with your parent. You
Mhm.
may not have had a situation where money was talked about openly or freely during your childhood, or maybe you did, but also you're talking about a little bit of a shift in the, I'm going to call it the power structure, right? Where all of a sudden you're taking over more of a leadership role. And at least for my own self, I don't want my parents to think I am trying to like aggressively get into their affairs and, you know, do things that they wouldn't want done with their money or their things. So let's talk for a minute about what are some ways you can start this conversation if you haven't had it yet.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one because not to people have not shame around money, but they have a lot of hangups around money, and also they have control issues around money that's very normal, common. Um, I think, um, the one way is to bring in trusted advisors, like a financial advisor, an accountant, a lawyer. Um, those those people have seen it all, and they're willing to, bring up the hard truth to people. That's one way. Another way is to sort of say, uh, I was doing my own estate planning, and I'm my lawyer told me about my power of attorney, and this is what I thought I should do. And I wanted to talk about, do you have that? Well, I want to make sure your wishes are carried out. Um, it's coming from a place of love, So that's another way to do it. You could say, yeah, listen to this podcast. You know,
Yeah,
my friend's parent went through this,
right.
things like that.
I mean, that's been helpful for me and a good way to start some conversations with my parents around a lot of topics, right? Because I have seen other families go through different situations and I don't want that. So I have been able to say, hey, Susie had this situation. I want to make sure we don't go through that. I mean, even an example is somebody in our family passed away and everyone was assured that the burial plot was taken care of, paid for, ordered. It was very clear. But then once this person passed and the documents were read, I guess, it was clear that, or my family member called to say we want to make arrangements to come out and take care of this. And the cemetery was like, well, we don't have a plot for this person. Right. So like I don't know where the breakdown in communication was, but like even when you think you're doing a good job, things fall through the cracks or you
Yes.
think things are done, but they're not done. And so my sentiment with my parents is just be clear with me so I can do what you want, right? Whether it's financial or with regard to other things that are kind of hard to talk about. But it's
Yeah.
sometimes just, you don't want your parents to feel like you're pushing them. Even my mom said to me the other day, well, sometimes I feel like you're pushing me towards an assisted living or a retirement community. And I was like, well, I'm not. I'm just asking you to think about it. But it's an example where the dynamic, like what I say and what she hears, can be two different things. And I like these sort of softer ways in of um, let's just have a conversation.
Yeah, I think if possible, if you can do it sooner rather than later, because when things hit a crisis point, people are less willing to hear it. Um, I've have had parents and grandparents, and it was always a struggle too, and they also didn't always do what I wanted or thought of or thought was the best, despite asking me every question under the sun because I'm a lawyer and I
Right.
should know, how to deal with X, Y, or Z. But
But still
when
you're still the child, maybe in some cases. And it's like even though you're an expert in this field, your role in that situation, there's different dynamics that come into play. So
yeah, exactly. And also people have different personalities. I say there are the planners and then there are the deniers and then there's everybody in between. And there are some people out there who are constantly updating their powers of attorney and all their documents. I mean, like every couple of years. And there are some people who have, if they've actually signed their documents at all, put it in a drawer and never looked at it again. Um, you know,
oh
literally for 30
yes.
years.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
obviously, I think somewhere in between would be best. Um, so,
Well, it's so true. And even I was laughing, I was going through some during the pandemic, we worked on healthcare powers of attorney and things with my parents just to be careful. And I was
yeah,
looking at something the other day and I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, my mom didn't even sign this. Like we
yeah,
all were together, all four of us sitting, doing the thing, and then somehow just we just forgot to get her one signature on this one piece of paper. And so oh my gosh, right? Like, I don't know if that would have negated the whole thing or what, but you're right. Like, just to bring it out and look at it periodically and make sure, is it still what we want? Is it all accurately signed? And also, where is it? Right? Because
exactly.
you have to be able to find the thing at the right time. And that's not easy either.
No, well, another thing is where is the key to the safety deposit box? That's another thing that gets lost often. But I like to tell people that they should have a list of all their accounts and their credit cards, their key people, and even if they don't give that list to their loved ones, tell the people where the list is. You know, maybe it's in the safety deposit box, and then tell them where the key to the safety deposit box. But you know,
Oh, I love
yeah.
it. This is the safety deposit box for me. I mean, growing up, we always had a safety deposit box, right? We like
Yeah.
in Connecticut where I grew up, there was a Union Trust Bank right on the main street where we lived, and like we just always had that. And I mean, not that there was nothing wildly valuable in it, but I think back in those days, like you kept the deed to your house and I don't know, maybe some jewelry or whatever. So
Yeah.
I don't know, a couple of years ago, my mom said to me, "Hey, you know where the key to the safety deposit box is, right?" And I was like, I know, I don't. And she's like, "Well, it's in the secret compartment that's hidden in the back of my dresser. That is there for like a special secret drawer was built into it." And I said, "How do you think I would have ever known that there was a secret drawer in your dresser or that that's where the safety deposit box key was?" So
Yeah.
we decided so then I said, well, let's go to the bank and let's just walk through it. Cause I think you have to get your name signed, right?
Yeah.
That to say like Kirsten can have access. And so we emptied the safety deposit box. And I mean, it's not a big one, right? There's just maybe some pieces of jewelry and some documents. There are boxes of coins in there that my mom was saving because these were very valuable coins. And so I thought, well, let's just bring them home and research. Like, if they're really valuable, like let's sell them. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go do something fun. And so, of course, we like go on the internet and figure out like most of them are dollar coins that are worth like $1.05, right?
Yeah.
So come
Yeah.
on, like why are we spending this money every year to keep a safety deposit box and then make it secret so that I can't find it? And then actually what's in here is really not worth anything anyway. But it comes down to that point, like if it's written down somewhere and we know it, we can look for it. But if somebody might forget about it or the cognitive decline sets in and they hadn't mentioned it yet, like you could miss things like that. So this list is really critical.
Yeah. Life insurance policies are also things that people forget about, like especially like veterans often got you know, from the greatest generation, I think, when they had insurance policies, like small ones or
Yeah.
whatever, that were paid up and like $10,000 when they went to war or something. People have no idea. You
Yeah.
know, usually when someone, this is after death, but usually when people pass away, you know, we look at the tax returns to see what their assets are and make sure that we capture everything. But, you know, life insurance policies don't show up on those.
Interesting. So your way as a lawyer to go in after the fact would be to look at the tax returns because they would have had to disclose whatever capital gains or interest. And that is your most reliable way of knowing these are all the accounts that need to be dispersed or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought my dad and my mom this book from Barnes and Noble, and it's on the cover, it just says, "I'm dead, now what?" Right? And it's kind of poke fun at this idea, but it's a place to just list all your accounts. Um,
Exactly.
and I don't know, we've maybe gotten 10% through that, but it's it's
Good
there.
job.
It's thank you. It's a process, right? And I think actually that's another good question for you. I mean, how do you typically, I mean, maybe people come to you and say, I want to get this all sorted out. But if I'm going to start with one most important thing first, where do you counsel people to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the powers of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney, I even tell people who are 18, their parents, to get them to sign healthcare powers of attorney and financial powers of attorney, because you know, as a parent, you've always taken care of those things for your kids. They turn 18, they're adults. Your power is over. Um, you know, the law provides generally backstops for where your assets should go in the event that you die without a will.
Mhm.
And it's you know, the what people would expect, spouse, children, etc. I'm not counseling anyone not to have a will. I think everybody should think about who they want to be in charge and where they want their assets to go. But at least there is something provided by statute. The with powers of attorney, if you do not have one and someone does become incapacitated, you have to go to court and be declared their guardian. And that can be expensive and difficult. And then you have the court's involvement in your life for the rest of that person's life. You have to provide accountings to the court because the court is basically saying, we're now in charge of this person and we're going to empower you, but we're going to watch over you to help this person. And so if it's important to have a power of attorney so that you do not have to go through that process.
Yeah, if you don't want the court involved in your personal business of managing your healthcare decisions or your financial decisions, you need to have these documents in place so that you can be in control.
Exactly. And so the person that you want is in control, to make the decisions for you. Because how would the court know? I mean, most likely they'll pick your child, but what if you have three?
Right.
One's better.
Right. Yeah. Or what if maybe you don't want this child to be making decisions, but maybe you do, or maybe this child is better at XYZ decisions and this other one is better at ABC. I mean, I don't know, but right. If you don't determine that, someone else is making those choices for you.
Exactly.
So, another thing that I wanted to ask about was charitable giving as a part of your estate planning. I think we talked about this. There's a story in my universe where a elderly person passed away, and instead of giving any of their estate to their heirs, they decided to give all of their estate to the church. And this person was, much older. And so questions came up among, nobody knew that this was the intention of this family member, first of all. And second of all, was it questions were asked, was this a decision that this person made willingly? Was there influence? And so I know that you're probably going to say, talk about it with your family, right? But are there specific things to think about in terms of if I want to give some money to some charity that's important to me? Are there any best practices or things to be careful about?
Well, so I think I shared with you that in the movies there's always this big scene where everybody's in the boardroom with some older lawyers reading the will and everybody's like, oh. So that usually doesn't happen in real life. But it's my general practice, although as a lawyer I cannot disclose confidence if you're my client to your children, but I do encourage my clients to be open with their children, in a way that they're comfortable with about what their wishes are. And if they were going to give a lot of money to the church instead of their kids, or whomever, say, hey, I think the children are well off and you're fine and you have enough money, and it would mean a lot to me that I give this money to the church. It feeds my soul and makes me happy. I hope you're okay with my decision, and leave it at that. So I would say that's one thing. I would also say that the test for competency to change someone's will is pretty low. Basically, you need to know who your heirs are and who your I think they say the fruits of your bounty are. It's like your basically who your immediate family is.
Okay.
your spouse and children and grandchildren, that these people exist and you would generally most people want to benefit them. then you also have to know what the general value of your assets are, and not to both in the sense of amount, not to the penny or anything, but just total value. But is that a lot or is that a little? Are you cognitively able to understand the concept of the amount of your wealth? But and then we ask things like who's the president, what day is it, things like that. But it's kind of a low bar.
Okay.
And so people can, as they age, can have a lot of influence on them. Maybe they go to church every week and they it's hard to say whether did they really want to give it all to the church or did they just get a little confused. And
Right.
hopefully, the attorney who provided or helped them with that, tried to talk to them, has a lot of notes, knows why they did that, made sure they really wanted to do that and were not being influenced. You
But
hard to
there's
know.
not like, see, even if you're on your parents' power of attorney, for instance, I mean, they could still go in and change their will, but they don't have to tell you.
Right,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They could. And another thing they can change is beneficiary designations. That can be a little bit tricky. So, a lot of accounts you can, I don't know if, especially retirement accounts, you get emails. I mean, I have a 401k every day. I get an email. Did you set your beneficiaries on the account, right? So regardless of what someone's will says, that account will pass according to that, who's ever named as the beneficiary. And
Okay. So the
it's
beneficiary designation overrides the will.
exactly.
Oh,
And so that, now it's not uncommon for people to leave their ex-spouses in those beneficiary designations. Usually that there's some law that will say that if you got divorced, that person doesn't get it. But you know, there can be an argument about it. So, oh no, he really wanted me to have it, even though we're
right.
divorced for 2 years. So yes, that's something to pay attention. That's also, you know, sometimes people have access to computers and they update the beneficiary designations and they shouldn't. I mean, that's just something not that often. It's just if that happens, that's a problem.
Right.
So
So that's something that you should have a check-in on every so often, just to make
exactly.
sure that it's accurate. Right. Because if somebody, I mean, people do all kinds of untoward things, and that is something that one could do. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure you've looked at it to be sure that it's indicated the way you want.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I like to, well, when I tell clients, I said, most people think their beneficiary designations say exactly who they want at the moment they think it, as opposed to the moment they do it. So, they'll be sitting in my office and say, oh, I want my 401k to go to my 3 children
Mhm.
equally. And then, 2 years later, I'll say, did you change that to say that? Did you sign the form?
Right.
And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah. I said, well, send me the form. No, they have not. So, and I try to tell, follow up. And I've even sat in my office with a client and said, let's, don't show me the login, log into your account. Let's see who's listed. And they'll be surprised. They're like, oh,
I mean, I think that happens with all of us, right? These days, and you can have multiple, I mean, if you worked at multiple places, maybe you've accumulated a bunch of 401ks and maybe you never consolidated it. Um, and so, I mean, even my mom, when this she was at the bank and this as part of that fraud thing I mentioned earlier. So we went to the bank to just go talk to them and see what were all the accounts. And then she discovered she had a CD there that was, not like ginormous, but there was like enough to have some fun with. But she just hadn't been getting printed. It was all going to her online account. So she hadn't been seeing printed statements. So she kind of forgot about it. And so I think kind of what I'm hearing you say is this idea of doing an audit, not every year, but every so often, just to make sure that you're aware of all of the things. Because we would hate to think that, our parent had a life insurance policy that they'd been paying into for 60 years and then we forgot about it and we couldn't use it for whatever their ideas were. So, okay. So, related to that, is there something that I can I go to the bank and say, don't sell my mom any more CDs or don't let her take out money? Or is that what you're saying, the financial power of attorney by account? I would go to the bank and say, we're going to open one of these. Um, that's the document that I would need to protect her.
Yeah, I think yes, for sure. I do think that if you do suspect that your parent is having some trouble cognitively, it doesn't, or is sending money places, you can contact the bank and tell them to be alert for fraud. Um, and they do take that seriously. Again, that doesn't give you power to stop it, but they might take action to double check with your parent. Do you really want to send this money to wherever? I don't
Right,
know,
right.
to this random person, or to take to or sort of delay the distribution a little bit, not too much, but just to have double checks on that sort of thing. So just like you would call the police if you suspect someone preying on your parent, you can alert the banks, and they'll try. I mean,
Right.
they
I mean, what can you do really? Like if somebody makes an electronic transfer to some other place, whether it's legitimate or not, I mean, it's an electronic transfer, so nobody's seeing that it's happening, right? I don't know if there's triggers for that, but how would you know?
yeah, yeah, I think there are. I don't know. Yeah, I think the banks probably for very large amounts, they do. I don't know for sure, but I think that they do have triggers. But to just, double check or call, or, double verify all these, like Vanguard is like your voice is your password
Yes,
or
right.
something,
That's true.
that that or what is that dual factor identity
Right, right. The
verification.
two-factor
So
authentication, right.
yeah, yeah.
Which I
So I
mean
mean,
drives us all batty, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to log into my bank and now they've got I mean, my mom especially, she's like, where did they text that code to? I don't know. And so
yeah.
it is, I guess it's helpful and we want it, but it's challenging. So actually, I don't know if this is something that you would know the advice on, but is it a good practice to add your name to accounts? So, like for instance, you have a bank account that is in the name of a parent and a trustee. Like, is that something that is useful, helpful, not a good idea?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think as not, I don't know, if it's a trust account, then you would have to be probably named as a trustee. But if it's just your regular bank account, like at Wells Fargo or
Right.
wherever, that people are using to pay bills, I think it's very common for children to, or one child to be on that account with the parent so that they can pay bills, or just help with things.
Right.
And so I think that, but all of these things are how you have to be a good person. Your parents have to trust you. You have to be trustworthy. You don't want your siblings saying, I mean, even unfortunately, even sometimes siblings, have different ideas about what mom really wanted you to use the money for, and one is on the account and one isn't, and that can cause a lot of rift,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And so I hope I try to hope that everybody's on the same page and that people, if you're on that account, you could take all the money out.
Right.
Um, but that's obviously not the intent. The intent is that you use the money for your parent. And when you're acting as an agent under a power of attorney or a trustee on a trust, you're a fiduciary. That means that you're required to act in the best interest of the person that you're acting as the agent for, and basically do what they would want done for themselves. It's not your power is not to do what you want done for yourself. It's for them. And you also have liability for acting in those roles if you do something that is not in the person's best interest. Um, so, on the one hand, it's good you can protect your parent, but also you are a fiduciary, and as a fiduciary, um, that comes responsibility and potential liability if someone says you didn't do something properly.
So, for instance, if you had a sibling that all of a sudden decided, I'm going to take this money and invest it for my parents or whatever, and with the idea that maybe they're going to take the gain or do something with it, but it's not something that the parents would have done, another sibling could say, hey, wait a minute, that's not an appropriate use of your power, and they could take action.
Yeah, so like let's say the example would be instead of investing the parents' money on their behalf in a diversified portfolio, they put it all in um, Tesla or Nvidia or whatever. I
Right.
mean, and all in one stock. And yeah, that stock was doing well for a while, but all of a sudden it went down and your parents have half the value that they used to. That's not appropriate. That's not what a fiduciary would do. A fiduciary would have a diversified portfolio and minimize risk for them. So,
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think that through at all. I mean, that's great that it is in place, but I hadn't thought that there's a technicality saying that you're a fiduciary and a whatever the other term was that you used.
yeah, hopefully everybody is on the up and
One
up.
other question that I had, which may be relevant or maybe not, but what's the difference between a revocable trust and is it the alternative an irrevocable trust?
Yeah, so a revocable trust is basically a will substitute. It's something that you can create during your lifetime, but all the assets in the revocable trust are yours. They're still yours for your benefit. And then on your death, the revocable trust tends to have um, in, the instructions as to where the assets should pass. So a revocable trust is something that you create during your lifetime, and it's a trust for your benefit, and then on your death it provides the instructions of where your assets are going to go. So you have not given away your assets, you've just put them in this vehicle, a management vehicle basically, and they're still yours, and because it's revocable you can change it, whatever that trust says. Just like you can change a will, you can change where your assets go later. An irrevocable trust is usually used for gifting, to give your assets away to someone else for their benefit. And irrevocable means that it cannot be changed. So you've taken your money and you created a trust for your grandchild, and that trust says, use this to pay for my grandchild's education. And the trustee of that trust is going to take the money, invest it, and pay for the grandchild's education. You have given the money away. It is not yours anymore.
Okay. So people could have both. you would have a
Absolutely.
revocable trust that is for you and your assets, but then an irrevocable trust could be something that you set up with a specific purpose in mind, typically a giving opportunity where you want money to go. Ah, okay. I never understood that. You just explained that so beautifully. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And,
So, um, somebody could have an irrevocable trust that you might not know about, like your
oh,
family, or is it part of the larger trust document?
no, no, it would be, it's usually separate.
Okay.
So usually the revocable and the irrevocable are separate documents. And I heard once that someone had a mistress and they created a trust and put money in trust for the mistress. And then the rest of the money was in the revocable trust for the other family, for the true family. And you know,
The
they found out
mistress,
later, but
yeah.
yeah, you could absolutely create a irrevocable trust for someone else without
That probably happens maybe more than we might realize,
it
perhaps.
might be good. Yeah.
So, in summary, I think this has been great, and we have covered a lot of ground today. And we could
Yes,
probably
we have.
do some additional shows on diving in deeper into some specific things. But is there anything else that you would want to say, or kind of are there overarching parting words that you want to share with us today?
I generally know I feel like most people are trying to do the right thing on both sides, and hopefully that open communication early and often uh, will help smooth the transition so the China during lifetime and death will go to the appropriate people. So
Hopefully, yeah, for sure. And without without stress, right? The more planning you do, the less stress there could be in the execution. And I think kind of what we talked about too is really when this all has to come to fruition, it's a really tough time because you're typically losing a loved one. And so the planning that you've done hopefully takes this stress off the table at a time that's really emotionally difficult to navigate.
yes, on both sides for your parents too, because the last thing that they want to do is go to a lawyer's office and start signing documents that make them nervous. And and on the other side, the child doesn't want to be in a position where they can't make decisions that they need to make.
Mhm. Well, I learned so much. I feel like I still have information to digest, but it's great education as we move into kind of finalizing some of this documentation and navigating it. So I really appreciate your taking time to be with us today.
Oh, thank you. Anytime. It was a real pleasure.
Awesome. All
Thanks.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
we'll hopefully have another episode to talk about some of the other things we were unable to cover today. So thanks,
Anytime.
thanks again. Who Gets the China is written and hosted by Kirsten Mao, produced by Aaron Bryce of Blue Ogden Productions. Our theme music is composed by Greg Fellman of Wind Sand Productions. Our cover art is by Jenn Beam of Gigawatt Studio. For more stories and expert advice, follow along on Substack or at www.whogetsthechina.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might appreciate the conversation. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time.